Welcome to this video. So in this video we are going to solve basically pure chemistry, which came in 2023. So this question is for those that are taking pure chemistry. So the question is saying phosphorus forms two oxides with formula P2O3 and P2O5. Calculate the percentage of phosphorus in P2 or 5. So the 5 is, yeah. So how do you calculate a percentage of a compound or a percentage of an atom? So for us to calculate the percentage of something, of course we have to find the total. I'll give you an example of this same one, phosphorus. So for us to calculate the percentage of phosphorus in this, first we need to calculate what? The total molecular mass of this compound. That's the first step. So the first step, calculate the molecular mass. So the molecular mass for this compound is, so we know that phosphorus has the molecular mass of 31. So you say 31, but here we have how many phosphorus? 2. So we multiply by 2. Then you say plus. You come to oxygen. What is the molecular mass for oxygen? It is 16. Then how many atoms of oxygen are in this compound? We have 5. Yeah, then when you multiply that 1 times 2, you get 62, plus 16 times 5, you get 8. Then if you add, you find the answer to be 142. So 142 is our molecular mass for this entire compound, which is P2O5. But we are not calculating the molecular mass for this compound, but we are calculating the what? The percentage of phosphorus. We are only interested in this compound, not the oxygen or the entire compound. So how can you calculate now the percentage? So we know that the percentage should be out of the total. So now that we have the total molecular mass for this compound, we can remove the what? The molecular mass of phosphorus for us to calculate the percentage. So now you can say how many atoms of phosphorus are in this compound. We have 2. So now we are calculating the what? The molecular mass for phosphorus. Or we already calculated it to be 62. So you say now the percentage for phosphorus is equal to, we said how many phosphorus are in this equation? 62. Then what is the total of the entire compound? Is 142. Then you multiply this by 100. So if you multiply this by 100, you find the answer to be 0.4366. Yeah, then you multiply it by 100, you get your answer to be 43.7%. So that is the percentage of phosphorus in this what? Compound. Yeah. So I know the other question is not there, but for the sake of practice, you can try to solve the what? The percentage of oxygen, just for the sake of practicing. Yeah. So the next question we are looking at is saying determine the mass of phosphorus that reacts with 1 mole of oxygen according to the equation. So how can we calculate now the mass of phosphorus according to the equation given? So this question is on more concept. Yeah. If you want to learn more about the more concept, be sure to inbox me. I offer tuitions at a cheap price. Yeah. So the question is saying determine. So how can we determine? So the first step when you are dealing with more concept, you have to look at the equation you have been given. Check if the equation is balanced. That's the first step. So I'm going to check if this equation is balanced. Of course, the equation is balanced. Then next you are going to compare the two moles you have been given and the one you are calculating. So since in our question you have been given the mole for oxygen, and they are calculating the mass of phosphorus. So meaning in our equation we are not going to use this. We are going to use this one which has oxygen because we have the moles for oxygen and we are calculating the mass for phosphorus. So we are going to use these two elements. We are going to compare them and find the mass. So how do you compare? So the numbers which we use to balance the equation are known as the moles of the equation. So these numbers represent the number of moles in that reaction. So this is a reaction. So you say 4 moles of what? Phosphorus reacts with 5 moles of oxygen. How many moles of phosphorus will react with 1 mole of oxygen? Then here you can closely multiply. You can say 1 times 4 we have 4. Then 5 times x we have 5x. You divide by 5. You divide by 5. Then our answer is 5 into 4 is 0.8 moles of phosphorus. So we have calculated the moles of phosphorus, but the question is asking us for the mass, not the what? Not the moles. So the next step which we are going to do is using now the formula for molar mass. So how do we calculate the number of moles? So we say that number of moles is equals to mass over molar mass. But we have the number of moles for phosphorus which is 0.8, and you have the molecular mass for phosphorus which is 62. So we are going to use these two values which we calculated to solve what? This equation. Yeah. But remember, we are not using 62. We are using the normal. Here we have how many what? How many moles of phosphorus do we have? We only have 1 atom. So meaning we are not multiplying with anything. Remember, when you are using this formula, do not multiply the atom with any number. Don't multiply 4 times the molecular mass of phosphate. No, just go direct. So the number of moles we have is 0.8. Then the mass is the one we are calculating for. Then the molar mass is 31. So now you closely multiply. So we have the mass which is equal to 31 times 0.8. You find your answer to be 24.8 grams as our mass for phosphorus. Yeah, so this is how questions are simple on the more concept. Yeah. The next question we are going to look at is phosphorus P2O3 exists as a liquid while P2O5 is a solid at room temperature and pressure. Phosphorus burns in oxygen gas at lower temperature to produce P2O3 as the only product. Construct a balanced equation for the reaction of phosphorus and oxygen. So this question, they are requiring us to calculate they are requiring us to construct a balanced equation between phosphorus and oxygen. So how can you construct the equation? So basically the way you can construct this equation is simple. Look at question B. Question B has an equation which gives us this. Then here again they have told us to make an equation. So simply you say phosphorus, which is solid, react with phosphorus is a gas, reacts with oxygen, a gas. So why are we writing oxygen as O2? Oxygen is a diatomic atom, meaning it exists as two atoms. All the elements in group 7 exist as diatomic. We have fluorine, hydrogen, chlorine, all those elements. Yeah. So when these two react, we know that phosphorus is in group what? 5. So meaning if we subtract 8 minus 5, we'll get 3 as the valence for phosphorus. Then we know that oxygen is in group 6. Oxygen is in group. We know that oxygen is in group 6, meaning it has a valence of 2. So as I explained in my previous video for constructing a chemical equation, where you have to swap the valences. So here we are going to swap. So since phosphorus has a valence of 3, we are going to give it to oxygen. Then since oxygen has a valence of 2, we are going to give it to phosphorus. And this is liquid. The question has already said that this product is liquid. So this chemical equation was simple. But remember, this chemical equation is not balanced. Here we have 3 oxygens, here we have 2 oxygens. Here we have 2 phosphorus, here we only have 1. So how can we balance this equation? So for us to balance the equation, we are going to add a 2 in front of phosphorus. So when we add the 2 in front of phosphorus, we have how many phosphorus? We have 4. So here meaning we are going to add the 4 in front of phosphorus. Then oxygen. How many oxygen do we have here? Here we have 3 times 2, which is 6. But here we have 2. So for us to have 6 oxygen here, we add the 3. Yeah. So that's how this question is solved. So next is name the acid formed when P2O3 dissolves in water. So when this compound dissolves in water, it basically forms an acid which is known as phosphorus acid. So the acid formed is phosphorus acid. Yeah. So this is where the question ends. We started by calculating the percentage, which I said first you need to calculate the molecular mass of the compound. Then second, you calculate the molecular mass of the element you want. Then you use the fraction, which is the amount, the percentage of the atom divided by the total molecular mass of the compound. Then we looked at how to determine the mass of phosphorus, or the mass of any substance when you have been given what? A chemical equation. Then last, we also looked at the constructing equations in the phosphorus acid. So be sure to subscribe to my channel for more videos.